We're going to talk about the mitzvah of BIRCHAS KOHANIM. Comes up in this week's parsha, coming up Parshas Naso, and why in Chutzar we don't do it so much. And other issues. So the chinuch brings like this. The chinuch brings there's a mitzvah say, and this is his word. Stavu HaKohanim. The Kohanim have a mitzvah. Sheyavorchu Yisrael b'chol yom. Every day there's a mitzvah to them to mevorach the Yisraelim. Shenemar kois yivorchu es b'nei Yisrael emor lahem. So there's a mitzvah for the Kohanim to say BIRCHAS KOHANIM, Yivorech Hashem Mishamecha, and to do it every day. And kacha. So the obvious question is, why today aren't we so makbar on this in Chutzar tonight? Yisrael, they do it. They do it Shachris, Mincha, Musaf, what? Sephardim do it. But Ashkenazim, Mincha depending on your daven Mincha, yeah. Before, you should do it later, not. But upon them, Shachris, Mincha don't do it because it's later. But Shachris, Musaf, Ne'ilah, why the Israel, but the Ashkenazim, we don't do BIRCHAS KOHANIM in Chutzar? It's well known that the Goyin wanted to, the Chaim Volozhin, the Goyin held you should do it in Chutzar, and the Chaim Volozhin tried to do it in the Yeshivas Volozhin, and a fire broke out, a great fire, burnt down that place, and in the Shemayim they didn't let, so that was the end of that. He didn't try to institute it again. He wanted to keep his yeshiva. So that was the end of that. But the question is, what's the pshat? It's a mitzvah say in the Torah. What?
Wasn't much of a bracha.
That's the question. Now, for that we'll discuss another issue. The other issue is there's another issue. It says, Kois Vorchu, you should make the BIRCHAS KOHANIM, Atem, Midashin, Atem loy Zorim. Zorim, so Yisrael can't say BIRCHAS KOHANIM. The whole question in the Gemara. So Ramah brings down, Ve'ein lezor lisa kappa, the Zor shouldn't go and do BIRCHAS KOHANIM. Even with other Kohanim, the Zor over b'asei. It's over on a say. It says Kois Vorchu. Only Kohanim should do it, but Yisrael shouldn't do BIRCHAS KOHANIM.
What about Friday night?
Oh, good. Hang on there. So he brings down. Tosfos doesn't know what the issue is. V'eshim Kohanim achem shari tzarchin. What Ma'aser Mishmur says, all the Achronim are skimu. Chol gavno over b'asei. You can't do. Yisrael can't do BIRCHAS KOHANIM. So the question is, what about Friday night? So there was another minhag. The minhag was if someone's leaving, I don't know if you heard of this minhag, if you're malava someone, he's leaving, you had a guest over and he's leaving town, so you'd give him BIRCHAS KOHANIM before he left town. You'd walk him out and give him traveling, and who knows where, on the roads, the dangerous roads in those days. So you gave him BIRCHAS KOHANIM. So he has the kasha here in the Bir Halacha. Fiza yesha tmoya. Al minhag ha'olam shenoigim levarach echad l'chaveroi bein hu koyin oizar be'eshem malava oisam. When he's walking him out, he's leaving, washing v'rechacha. He does this. It says Kois Vorchu Yivorech Hashem Mishamecha. Only the Kohanim could say this bracha, and here everybody does it. They give this bracha when he's leaving. What? There was such a minhag. We don't have that minhag here so much, but we do have the minhag of saying Friday night. Many families give children brachas.
Anyway,
what? Before Yom Kippur? Every Friday night some people do it. Right? They give a bracha. What do you say? Yivorech Hashem. You're a kohen, you're not a kohen. It says in the Torah, Kois Vorchu.
You don't make a bracha though.
You don't make a bracha?
Yeah.
So you're doing a mitzvah.
Maybe that's a distinction now.
So what does that help? You know, do the mitzvah is a mitzvah. Bracha is a mitzvah rabbanon. The bracha is a mitzvah. But the mitzvah you're still doing. So he says like this. So Rabbi Halacha continues. He says, well, what are you going to say? You're not doing it during davening. I'm not doing it during davening. The Yaduhu, what the Yerushalmi says in Tainus, that you don't have Nasias Kapayim without Tefillah. I will discuss this soon, exactly why, what the Pshat is. He says, you don't find without, only in Tefillah is there a chiyuv for the KOHANIM to do it. To do BIRCHAS KOHANIM. So maybe, if it's not B'shas Tefillah, anybody could do it. So maybe Azar is allowed to do it, Yisrael is allowed to do it, not B'shas Tefillah. He says, well, that's only at the Kanta de Rabbanan that to do it by Tefillah. So before I go further in the Biur Halacha, let me just explain where he's coming from and what's going on. There is a the Ikar mitzvah of BIRCHAS KOHANIM was in the Beis HaMikdash, B'shas Avodah, during the time when they had Avodah. That was the Ikar mitzvah of BIRCHAS KOHANIM. So he says, Beginner's Brodim, that even a Kohen, there's even an Issa for a Kohen himself to do BIRCHAS KOHANIM not during the Avodah time. There's a whole shiloh. If a Kohen's allowed to give the bracha, Hashem, we do it by Pidyon Aben, he gives it, right? The Kohen gives it by Pidyon Aben. But there's chasna. Some people do it by the chuppah, the chasna that says...
A bris too. After a bris, don't they go up?
After a bris, by the Sfardim, they do it. By the Sfardim, they give, after the bris, the Kohanim go and give a bracha. I was at a Sfardi bris, and Palm was there, he didn't go up. I don't know if he didn't go up, he's a Kohen. I don't know if he didn't go up because it's Ashkenaz, why should he go up? Well, he held that it's not so simple to give a BIRCHAS KOHANIM not during B'shas Avodah. There's many poskim that say even a Kohen, he's not supposed to do the BIRCHAS KOHANIM if it's not during the Avodah. That's why we do it by the Avodah. But you would say that's the time of the Avodah and the Tefillah, that's the bracha on Avodah, that's when we do the BIRCHAS KOHANIM.
You're just contradicting yourself. You just said every Kohen is mechliv to give a bracha regardless. It didn't say where.
It doesn't say where. It doesn't say where. So this is a shayla. There are many poskim that say that the only Isser, the only mitzvah, the mitzvah of BIRCHAS KOHANIM is b'shas Avodah, in the Beis HaMikdash, by Avodah.
That explains why you know it Israel, yes.
Well, we don't have Beis HaMikdash today.
True. That's the
Most people don't.
by the Avodah.
No, it's not just, no, but it's not just by the Kaisel. They do it everywhere.
We do it all over, yeah.
It's all over, so not just by the Kaisel.
But we have to explain why that's all they do it and here we don't do it. Yeah. Now, very interesting, the Mishkanas Yaakov, the Tshuva, he talks about a question whether tefillah is d'oraisa or not. In other words, there's a machlokes, a well-known machlokes, the Rambam and the Ramban, whether our davening today, is that a mitzvah d'oraisa or is that only a d'rabbanan? Just that we daven Shemona Esrei every day. So he brings a raya that it has to be that the tefillah is d'oraisa. Here, wait a second. I'll quote it for you here. He brings a raya. So it says like this. It says, "V'oid raya brura." I have a clear raya that the tefillah today has to be d'oraisa, because the Gemara says that BIRCHAS KOHANIM, the kohen adds a bracha, right? They have three brachas, right? And they say three brachas there. Second bracha, and so on. So they have three brachas, but if they add another bracha, if they add a fourth one, they're over on Baal Tosef. Can't add a fourth bracha. They only say three. Koisev Archu. They're going to do three. They can't add on number four. So this is a Gemara, and the Gemara says like this: that and this mitzvah BIRCHAS KOHANIM is not just for the time of the Beis HaMikdash, it's even for afterwards. And the raya is because the Gemara says you're over Baal Tosef even today. If they add on a bracha, they're over Baal Tosef. So this is what Gemara says. So he said in Rosh Hashanah. So he says, how is that possible? If the Nesias Kapayim is only during the Avodah, so you don't have the Avodah today. So maybe they're doing Stam Mitzvah Rabbanan, maybe they're doing something, but they can't be over Baal Tosef because you don't have the Avodah today, If the whole mitzvahs of BIRCHAS KOHANIM is only during the Avodah, and we don't have the Avodah today, so then how could they ever get to be over Baal Tosef? The Gemara is mashma over Baal Tosef today. So he says it must be that Tefillah is Deraisa and Tefillah is Avodah. That's why we do it during davening. Tefillah is Avodah. That's how you Avodah Hashem. Avodah all of Avchem. Avodah Shabalev. This is Tefillah. So since Tefillah,
There's no such thing as Baal Tosef in Rabbanan?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't sure. So maybe it could be there's a Baal Tosef to Rabbanan. I don't know if you have that.
Okay.
I think Baal Tosef is only on the Raisa. Akorcha avodah shulchanei he tefillah she avodah shebalev. So this manam natorach tefillah sibur. Now, if you're going to say the whole davening is d'Rabbanan, so you can't have a mitzvah of BIRCHAS KOHANIM d'Oraisa on a davening that's d'Rabbanan. Doesn't make sense. So you have to say the davening today is d'Oraisa. This is a Rabbi. But he's going that the real mitzvah of BIRCHAS KOHANIM is only by an avodah. So that's only during davening. So if you take what he's saying to the fullest extent, so now we don't have a problem. Maybe the only isser for Yisrael to do BIRCHAS KOHANIM would be to go up to Duchen with the Kohanim. But if it's not during davening, where there's no mitzvah for the Kohanim, so then maybe there's no Avera for Yisrael. It would make sense. If there's no mitzvah for the Kohen to do to say, if there's no mitzvah for the Kohen, then there's no isser for Yisrael to do it. And the Chazon Ish puts in a svara. Chazon Ish says, what's the isser for Yisrael to go up and Duchen with a Kohen? It's not clear where this isser comes from. You make a new drasha, Kaisavarchu, only the Kohanim should do it, not Yisraelim. Where is it? What's the isser for Yisrael to get up and duchen with a Kohen? So he learns the isser is just like by avodas in the Beis HaMikdash. A zor is not allowed to do an avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, right? It's a zoris. Yisrael can't be zorik the dam. He can't be makriv the carbon in the Beis HaMikdash. So he says, this is midin. This is midin b'kidashta. We have to makadash a kohen. Make a difference between a kohen and Yisrael. A kohen's allowed to do an avodah, and Yisrael's not allowed to do an avodah. So he says, included in that is the issue for a zar to do the siyas kapayim. Well, that makes sense. If you're doing it b'shas avodah, you're doing it during the time when he's doing the avodah. Part of the avodah is for him to do nasiyas kapayim, for him to do the thing. But if it's not during the avodah, so there's no issur. That's not included in the whole issur. But that's very nice pshat. If you say that there's no issur the only issur is during the avodah, and now you're not during the avodah, you're Friday night by Kiddush, you just want to give your son a bracha, so you don't have a problem. You can give him a bracha of BIRCHAS KOHANIM, because this issur only applies by the time when you're doing the avodah.
How do you add on? Like, when you do the bracha, you add on your own bracha after when you finish that.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
No, but I thought we couldn't add on.
A kohen is not allowed to add on.
It's a kohen.
Yeah, that's why a kohen, it's a whole shiloh. He's allowed to say the Ribono Shel Olam, he says, after the Yevarechacha, because he's adding on a bracha. He's not allowed to add on a bracha. It's not really adding on. Some say because he already turned around, he put his hands down. They were saying some people are makar, not to say, you say shkoyach kohen when he comes down. They don't. They say baruch tiyah. They say no, you can't say baruch tiyah. They're adding on a bracha. They're not allowed to add on a bracha. But some say no. It's after they went down from the duchen. It's not b'shas avodah anymore. The ikar mitzvah is during the avodah. Tefillah is avodah, and the middle of the avodah, and afterwards it's not a for kohen. So who did for us Yisrael? We're not really doing their job. It's not during the avodah. It's a very geschmacka thing. The only problem is the poskim don't like this. The poskim don't like this because, first of all, the Bialacha says many Rishonim hold the tefillah is a d'Rabbanan. It's not a d'Oraisa. It says tefillah is d'Rabbanan. Then you're going to run into a problem if it's d'Rabbanan because if it's d'Rabbanan and still the Kohanim have a mitzvah of Avarich b'chol yom. They have a mitzvah saseh that goes even today. So today we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. It's noig b'fnei abayis, shaloi b'fnei abayis. We have a mitzvah today of BIRCHAS KOHANIM. They're going to say they can't do the mitzvah. They can't do the mitzvah. So then it doesn't make sense. It's mashma and all the minor mitzvahs that the Kohanim have a mitzvah even today to do BIRCHAS KOHANIM. And we don't have avodah today. So tefillah is d'Rabbanan. So it's not. So it's mashma that the mitzvah has nothing to do with avodah. It's not just by avodah. And then the question goes back: how is the Yisrael allowed to do it? And that's what the Bialacha asks. He says, Midaraisa ain't a toilet b'zeklau. Midaraisa, you can't say, he argues on these shittas, the Mishkan Yaakov and others, and he says, no, Midaraisa, the mitzvahs birchas kahanim is even not during the avodah. So kivan Midaraisa, Yosef Baruch 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 Hashem Mishlosh Tefillah. So how is a Zor allowed to bench his friend this lashon of Yivrach Hashem? We'll give a son a bracha if you're doing what it says Kosev Orchu, and a Yisrael is not allowed to do it. That's the question. So he says you have to say now. So that is another option to answer this question. It's another option. The Bach says the only time there's an issur is if you say the bracha with the Siyas Kapayim, however you do it, like this, or whatever the Siyas Kapayim is. The only the mitzvah of the KOHANIM doing it is with the Siyas Kapayim, we're picking the hands up and doing it. So if you don't do it, if you don't pick your hands up and do it, people spread their fingers like that, yeah. So if you don't pick up your hands and do it, so you could just saying the bracha without the Siyas Kapayim, you're not really doing the mitzvah, and if you're not really doing the mitzvah, so there's no issur for you to do it. That's what the Bach says. And for this reason, the Goin was noyeg. It's brought down that the Goin was very makbid. The Torah Tamim brings it down that the Goin was makbid not to give a bracha by putting both hands on. You ever saw many people have the minhag that they'll give the bracha, Simcha Kim Tzayim National use both hands, but then by Yivarechacha they'll only take one hand, only use one hand. Why? Because by the KOHANIM they use two hands. And putting your hand on the head is similar to putting your hands up, and therefore the Goin was makbid that when he gave the bracha Yivarechacha, he only used one hand. So he shouldn't have a problem of being over this mitzvah that a Zor can't, he wasn't a Kohen, a Zor can't give this. So he says, that's what the Goin did. The Goin did with one hand. And he says the Goin gave a bracha to BiRCHAS Landau. I don't know who that was. It wasn't my beauty, it was older than him. But the Goy gave a bracha by the chuppah. Like you said, it used to be minhag to give a bracha by the chuppah, to give Yivarechacha, so he did it with one hand. Because he didn't want to, like the Bach. The Bach says that the Siyas Kapayim is only two hands. So the only time the mitzvah of the Kohen is with two hands. So if Yisrael does it with two hands, he's copying the Kohen. He's over. But if he does it with one hand, you have an option.
Isn't it two hands with splitting?
Yes, it's not. I don't know.
It's not pashut.
It's not pashut that you do it. Yeah, you have to pick it up. You can't hold it down.
Yeah, the splitting is that's the whole image. That's the us. The issa is only on the.
How do you know that? How do you know that? That's so simple, not so straightforward.
Because we were told as kids never do it. Isn't that an issa?
Never do it. Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that?
This Tata never told you? It comes from generations of generations.
You split your fingers like that?
Why not?
No, you cut them in half like this. You're not supposed to do it.
Why not? Why not? You're not saying you're not doing a Siyas Kapayim.
No, I'm saying during that time.
During BiRCHAS KOHANIM.
Therefore, what's going like this is not even a similarity.
Yeah. So the Kitzer, the Goin, that's the Goin's pshat, and that's why some people talk to do that. They only give with one hand the bracha. But Ma'aser, the place, a lot of the Tzilias and others says you can use two hands. A lot of people like to use two hands, and the B'yalach doesn't like this. Well, one hand, two hands. He doesn't like this whole business. He says maybe it's like the Bach that says the Zohar is only over when you do two hands, when you put two hands up. He says no. He says he doesn't like that. No, who said you all like the Bach? Others argue in the Bach. You're not allowed to say the BiRCHAS KOHANIM without any hands. You can't say the BiRCHAS KOHANIM. Azar can't say BiRCHAS KOHANIM. So what's the heter that we give a bracha? So he says, Ulai, the pshat is that we have in mind not to be yotze the mitzvah. The only time you're over is if you're doing it l'shem mitzvah. But if I have in mind not to be over the mitzvah, then I could go say BiRCHAS KOHANIM. That's what the B'yalach comes out. So we have three reasons it comes out. The first reason is that maybe it's only b'shas avoida, and we're doing it not by tefillah. The second, some don't like that. The second reason is maybe it's only if you have your two hands up, And you don't have it. The third reason, if you don't like that, third reason is, okay, you're not having in mind to be Yotze. Mitzvah Srichas Kavana, and I don't have in mind to be Yotze. And even if your mitzvahs don't need Kavana, I have in mind not to be Yotze. You're not doing it l'shem mitzvah, you're just giving a bracha. So you're not giving l'shem mitzvah. There's no issue of saying, for a Zohar to say, Yivarecha. That's what the Bialocha says over here. Huh? It's good, you like that? It works? What?
We're covered.
You're covered. The Bialocha says. Some say, what do you mean? You can't have in mind, if you do a mitzvah, let's say I shake a lulav. I have in mind not to be Yotze. The question is, does that work? It's not so simple. Let's say you say Kriya Shema to the boy, you have in mind, I'm not being Yotze in the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. So Machlekes Scheiner, if it works. Not so simple. If you're doing the mitzvah and you have in mind not to be Yotze. It's not the teretz that, that answers all the sheets. But anyways, it's a smara that I have in mind not to be Yotze, I'm okay. But let's go back to the initial question. The initial question is, a mitzvah for the KOHANIM to bench the Yisrael every single day. Why don't we do that today? Why don't we do that today? What's the pshat?
You might be drunk. No,
What?
You might be drunk for KOHANIM.
Why? Every day people drink?
No, I'm saying might. Isn't that
But it could be there as well, be the same thing.
Every day a guy's drunk? Doesn't make sense. By Simchas Torah we don't do it to Shachris.
Right.
The Shachris, we don't do it Musaf because maybe he's drunk. We do it Shachris instead. But otherwise, why would I assume the guy's going to be drunk? So, there's a question, why do I do it today? So the truth is the Ramah already gives a reason. The Sfardim, the Mechaber says do it every day. The Ramah says, it's famous Ramah. He says, is this the place over here? It says like this. Nagu b'chol medina seilu. We're not in all our medinas she'ein noisim kapayim ela b'yomtiv. Only on yomtiv. Mishum sha'az shruyim b'simchas yomtiv. Because then everybody's happy. But toiv levu yivarach. You can only give a bracha when you're happy. Masha'ein kein b'shar yomim afilu Shabbos hashan. Even on Shabbos shatrudim b'rurim al mechasim. Everybody's worried about panasa. Can't get your mind off of it. V'albitu malachtam. Shabbos, you have to stop working on Shabbos, and you're worried how you're going to make money, Vafil b'yomtiv, and even on Yomtiv, you're worried what are you going to do about Panasa. So you can only do but feel musaf, that at that time you're ready daven the whole day. Imagine a guy davens the whole day, he's all geschmack, he's into it. So then he's happy already. And you're ready to leave the shul. It's at the end of the day, you're ready to go to the Geshmak Kiddush. So then, Yismuchu b'Simchas Yomtiv, you're about to have a Geshmak Simchas Yomtiv. So then everybody's happy. Pshatel over here, you have a mitzvah say in the Torah to go ahead and bench KOHANIM every day. So it must be some pshatel. Where does this come from?
Eretz Yisrael, how do you get around that?
How do you get around Eretz Yisrael? Good question. So he says like this. He says brings the time of the Ramah. We'll come back to the space of fire. A very interesting tshuva, and he says everybody's busy with the parnasa. He says it's also a good reason. The Tshuvas Maram says like this: the Bar Yehuda, this is the Rebbe of Rashi, Rabbi Yaakov Bar Yehuda, the Rebbe of Rashi. Kosav, he couldn't find a smach for this. Why? You don't say BIRCHAS KOHANIM. Elanoig, there was a minik shekol ha'ayim levarach roish yishar b'simcha. That's what it says. Yitzchak Avinu, it brings from Yitzchak Avinu. Avili tzayid told Esav, bring me the geshmak of food, and then I'll roichle mitzayid b'ni, and then I'll give you a bracha. Why couldn't you just give the guy a bracha? He had to wait for him to go hunt to get the food, because you can't just give a bracha. Think you just give a bracha? You have to be simcha. The guys b'simcha give a bracha. I know someone, a choshev yid, he would give only brachas on Simchas Torah. If he comes from here, he doesn't have to come back on Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah, he would drink a little bit, and his brachas would work. I've seen them work. So, you have to be b'simcha, give a bracha. Just give a bracha like that. You have to be sure b'simcha. So, he says, Toiv levav shchem asim b'yitzchak. So he says that that's what Tshuvas Maram brings. Even though he couldn't find a smachlis, it's a mitzvah say d'oraisa not to give. So the Maram goes on and says something fascinating. He says, "Vatam yeshleima mitzvah lahanig midas rishonim." It's a mitzvah to do the minhag that we was handed down to us from the Rishonim. Shechein matzina b'Yushalmi minhag oiker halacha. A minhag is oiker halacha. So he says, we have a mitzvah in the Torah, the God give a bracha every day, and we have this. Well, Rama says we're not happy today. We can't give brachas, but maybe only by Musaf and Yom Tov we get a little happy. Then they can give a bracha, and for that reason, that's it. No more BIRCHAS KOHANIM except for Yom Tov. Says the Maram minhag oiker halacha. Yerushalmi says if this is a minhag, this is a minhag all the way back from then. Finished. You don't argue. Now he says to take it so far, he brings shuv. Boli Yodei Sefer Shalos Shuvas Ola Yaakov. A guy named Rav Yaakov Shputas. There's a guy. He lived in the times of Shapsi Tzvi. Okay, and he was one of the fighters against him. One of the big fighters. He's a big Mekubal fighter against him. And he writes like this. He writes, "B'shasha hayaroid from Achat Tzvi Shavar." The time when they're running after this broken Tzvi, Shapsi Tzvi, Nogu b'kolcham. So everybody started saying BIRCHAS KOHANIM. They went after him and they started saying BIRCHAS KOHANIM every day. And now the shaila was, when he converted, it was over, and it was back to normal. The question is, we're saying BIRCHAS KOHANIM every day. It's a mitzvah segment Torah. Maybe we shouldn't stop doing that. They already started saying BIRCHAS KOHANIM every day. Maybe we should stop. So he says, mitzvah segment, maybe you can't back out. So we're going to now, no, you have to change it. You have to change the minhag. Why? Sherinogu b'chol Galila Yisrael Mefrat b'Malchus Ashkenaz of Poland, like the Rama says that we don't say it except for Yom Tov. Finished. You can't. You have to go back and change it. That's what happens. So we have a minhag oiker halacha. Even though it's a small reason for the Rama, you have to change it. Anyways, this is the Tshuvas Beis Ephraim at the end. The Tshuvas Beis Ephraim starts off. That's the last paragraph of it. But he starts off on this shaila that why don't we say BIRCHAS KOHANIM today? And he says fascinating things. He has his own reasons why today, except for in Eretz Yisrael they say it. Why in Eretz Yisrael do they say it? Why by us we don't say it? And why on Yom Tov we do say it? So there are more reasons we're only happy on Yom Tov. But he gives a fascinating reason. He says like this. First he says you have to notice there's a minhag kodem. He says from the Talmud of Ram Rottenberg, Rabbi Shalarosh, he brings it down that the minhag was not to do it. He brings so this minhag goes back way back, that from the earlier Rishonim that they didn't do in Chutz La'aretz they didn't do BIRCHAS KOHANIM. So he says, what's the pshat? What's the pshat in such a thing? So he says like this. He says, first he brings a very interesting thing. He brings from the where was it? So the first thing he does, he says that there's a question. There's a question on the Kohanim today. Okay? The Gemara says like this: Mal lahalois nesias Kohanim liyuchsen. So the question is, we're very wary to allow someone to go. If someone says he's a kohen, to allow him to go up to duchen. Why? Because if a guy goes up to duchen, then we're being machzik him as a kohen. We're saying you're a kohen, and when we're machzik him for a kohen, he may go ahead and eat truma. He may eat truma. Now, what's wrong with eating? Duchening is one thing. Okay, so Yisrael's not supposed to duchen, but eating truma, azar eats truma, is chayav mitzvah. So there's a question in the Gemara: if you have someone that's duchening, is that enough of a raya that he's a kohen? It's duchening. Is that enough of a raya that we allow him to eat truma? He doesn't have a ksav yichus that says, when I did a pidyon rabben on my son, there's a kohen here in Toronto who claims he had a ksav yichus all the way back to the shach who was a kohen. But when he ran away from the war, he lost it.
How many years is the shach?
The shach was in the Tatnu. So that was the 1600s. Yeah. He had in the early 1600s. So he had from the shach he had a psav back, but he lost it in the war. He ran away, lost it in the war. He didn't have it, so he couldn't show it to me. What does that help me? But anyways, but they used to have a ksav yichus to say who they're from. But a guy walks in, no ksav yichus. I'm a kohen, I'm muhsik a kohen. My father was a kohen. So what kind of chazaka do you have? If you have a chazaka, because he goes to duchen, is that enough to allow him to do more chametzik thing, to eat truma? In other words, a guy gets an aliyah. Is that enough of a chazaka to allow him to go duchen? So a kohen has a chazaka. You know, I had a shiloh once. A guy, a guy claimed he was a Levi. Claimed he was a Levi. His father was a Baal Tshuva, and he didn't know he was a Levi. Then one day they found an old ksuva that he was a Levi. So now the son says, we found the old ksuva that we're Levi. So could he become a Levi? Right? It was a shiloh. Could he become a Levi? So it's very interesting. For Levi, it doesn't matter. What's the chiluk if the guy's a Levi or not today? Is there any chiluk who's a Levi today? There's no chiluk. The only nafkamina is, what's the nafkamina for a Levi? We give him an aliyah, second. Nafkamina as a Levi is that he doesn't have to do pidyon aben. Right? He doesn't have a Levi. So that's only any suffix the halacha is. He doesn't. It's a suffix. As long as it's a suffix, he doesn't do pidyon aben anyways. So the halacha is, that's a shiloh, but the halacha is you can allow him to be a Levi because you're not being machzik him in anything. But a kohen, the halacha is you can't give him an aliyah. If you're not certain he's a kohen, you can't give him an aliyah. Why not? Because by giving him an aliyah, you're allowing him to duchen and to take the pidyon aben, to take the money of the pidyon aben. Who gave him a right to take the money of the pidyon aben? So you've been machzik him as a kohen. So that you have to have a raya. A suffix is not enough. A Levi is something else. So these are halachas of chazakas. You're saying he's a kohen. So he says, goes to a whole maroch on it. So he says, all the kohanim today are at best to have some kind of chazaka. They have some kind of chazaka, they're kohen because they're getting aliyas. He says, most of them, he says, amuter b'chalutza shvuya d'rabbanan. He says, you have a kohen today who wants to marry a chalutza. You can't marry a divorced woman, you can't marry, right? Kedasha, cousin. What about to marry someone who had a chalitza? It's also asam d'rabbanan. But he says, most of the kohanim are only sveikas today. They buy the kohanim for a few bucks. That's what he writes. There's a Russian. A few dollars, they buy it. How do they know they're kohanim? So there's a suffix. There could be the mutter. Mashtam says that the mutter to marry a chalutza because it's suffix d'rabbanan. He says maybe others argue on it, but that's because they have a chazaka that they're a kohen, so maybe they can't marry for that there's a chazaka. But the question is, we don't know the kohanim are kohanim, and for this reason, there's a few reasons given why the kohanim, the challah schutzah, your wife takes off challah, right? You burn it. Why do you burn it? Give it to the kohen. Let the kohen eat it. He has to be tar. A kohen has to be tar from his keri. He has to be tar. But it doesn't have to be tar from tummy mace, chal schutzah. It can be a tummy mace and eats it. It just has to be. He has just to go to the mikveh. So let him go to the mikveh and eat it. So there's a few reasons given why we don't give it to the kohen today. One reason is because who said he's a kohen? Who said he's a kohen? He can't give it. He doesn't have a chazaka that he's a kohen to eat by challah. He has a chazaka that he can get up to duchen, but he doesn't. He doesn't have a chazaka to get by challah. So who said he's a kohen? So he says for that reason, that's enough of a reason that there's a shiloh of Isra safe for him to get up to do the duchen, because enough of a reason we shouldn't allow kohanim to duchen today. Who said that kohanim? They have chazaka. What kind of chazaka do they have today? We can't just. There are a lot of stories. I remember I knew someone that was Meshamash of Moshe Feinstein before his nifter, took care of him. He was like a nurse. He was Baal Tshuva, and he became Baal Tshuva, and he was a kohen, and he had a problem with marrying his wife because maybe his wife was previously married to a guy. I don't know the whole story, but he has a child if he can marry his wife. So Moshe said, "How do you know you're a kohen?" So he says, "My uncle told me I'm a kohen." His uncle was irreligious. They looked at, they couldn't find any clear proof that he was a kohen. Moshe says, "You're not a kohen. You can marry your wife."
Last name was
what? His last name was Cohen. So we don't have a clear proof. You have to have a chazaka. So he said, the Friza Adarabba, Tzarech Liyashiv Minigeret Yisrael, that they allow kohanim to get up and duchen. So he says, just to make it simple and short, he says that a chazaka depends on what you do. Once they did it, once they were always noig to give to duchen, so the kohanim had a chazaka to duchen. So therefore, they're allowed to duchen. In Chutz La'aretz, for whatever the reason is, they stopped doing it, maybe because they were running away, and whatever the reason is, they haven't been doing BIRCHAS KOHANIM. So now to say, go ahead and do it, you're trying to give them a chazak on something which they didn't have. So you can't allow them to go up. But in Eretz Yisrael, where they're already doing the duchening, so for that to have a chazaka, so you can't tell them not to duchen, because they had a chazak of that. In other words, we allow a kohen to do whatever he has as his status quo. What's his status quo? So in Eretz Yisrael, the status quo is a kohen goes up for duchening. So, and the problem is like this: once there is a duchening going on, is an issue for a kohen not to go up. So he's in a pickle. Do I not go up or do I yet go up? So since by not going up, he's saying, I'm not a kohen. Well, you can't say you're not a kohen. Maybe you are a kohen. By going up, he's saying you are a kohen. Wow, maybe you're not a kohen. So he's stuck in the middle. So we say like this: if there's a duchening and there's a chazaka that they're kohanim, so then they have to go up. But if it's better not to do the duchening, and they shouldn't go up because we don't know if they're really kohanim. So we shouldn't go up. That's how Beis Ephraim says. So Melina Eretz Yisrael, where they're doing it because they had a chazaka, so the kohen huchzik for that. So even if you live in Chutz La'aretz and you go to Eretz Yisrael, now what are you going to do? You're not going to go up, so you have to go up. Otherwise, you're saying you're not a kohen, so you have to go up. But someone that is better not to do it. So why do we do it on Yom Tov? He says because if you don't do it. He says, all year, okay, people are busy, some people come to shul, some people don't come to shul, you go to a different minyan, you daven in the kaisel at home, not everybody's davening, but on Yom Tov, when everybody comes to shul on Yom Tov, and lahedji, you're not doing BIRCHAS KOHANIM, that's, you're saying straight out, you guys aren't kohanim, that you can't do. So therefore, once a year, or three times a year, we do BIRCHAS KOHANIM in order that they should still keep some sort of chazaka that they're kohanim. So we're sort of playing with this. We don't want to say they're not kohanim. We don't want to say they are kohanim. So we say, okay, you can go up to duchen on Yom Tov, but the rest of the year you don't have to go up. That's the Beis Ephraim. As I said, as good as no kohanim here today. But there's another very interesting thing. I'll just go in here. And we'll end with that. We'll end with this, that he brings down here. This is not halacha l'maisa, but he brings down from. This is a sefer. The Pri Chodesh brings this down b'shem Sefer HaMekutzais. The Sefer HaMekutzais is before the Rishonim. It's an early sefer. And he says that this is what he says here. He says that if there's a nida in the house of the kohen, if the kohen's wife is a nida, asu loy l'meisik l'duchen, you can't get up to duchen. Kolem is the itza b'nida. The Amar of Yudin. This is like Kabbalistic things. Kol kohen shenasa kappa v'imo yo ishto yo bito nida v'nichnasu ba'oisei bayis, and he walked into that house. Harei tefilasa al Yisrael toyeva. Vafu goyim lazarish yovid min ha'olam. His tefillah is a toyeva, and he's causing his children to get lost. Spooky things over here. So if his wife is a nida, his daughter is a nida, he shouldn't get up to duchen.
Or his mother.
Or his mother is a nida. So the Pri Chodesh says, well, what do we do today? I mean, I can't get up to duchen. The Pri Chodesh says, I hope Kosher Tube doesn't put this on. You shouldn't be mafarsim these things, because they're not going to listen to us. It's not Mikra Din, it's just Kabbalah. The Hanach L'Yisrael Shi Yushoigim, and they shouldn't be Mazid, and they should be Shoigim, shouldn't do it. Now if we say, who's the Sefer Muktzais? Rabbeinu Chananel, Go'in Shenoida Koicha Gadol V'Yoda Chazaka. Rabbeinu Chananel, I'm not sure if it's the same Rabbeinu Chananel we have in the side of the Gemara, different Rabbeinu Chananel, but a very early Rishon or late going.
It doesn't make sense that, because you're referring that you're someone's going to leave at their house.
We're not going, yeah. He brings again Sefer Derech HaKodesh from Rav Chaim Alafandri. That's Sfadi going. That he says, he brings down this, that Rabbeinu B'Tzal Ashkenazi brings down the Sefer Mekutzais. And he says, Avada, we're not machmar on that today, but he says, the Ravid says on that, we're not machmar on today, but we're machmar misparach. In other words, we're not knowing like this today, everybody goes up to duchen. We're not knowing like this today, everybody goes up to duchen, but we're machmar misparach. So he says, who doesn't want the bracha of the Ravid? Hamachim Misbarach. So that's another reason. That's what he says of Chaim Alafandri, which is Fardi. But he says it's another reason why today we're not running after sending Kohanim up to duchen. I'm not running after it. If there's a minig and they're doing it in a chazaka, so they do it, so you can't be mavad that. But if the minig is not to do it, we don't run up to some kohanim up to it. So this is what he says. There's a chinu litin tamam maspikim lo minig hazeh that for many, many years, for now it's already over thousands of years, that we don't do birchas kohanim and chutzlaretz. The minig has its source. Minig is through Torah. Even though the mitzvah says halach in the Torah that they're mechuyev to do bracha every day, they have to do birchas kohanim every day. But because of these reasons, he says we don't do it unless we feel it necessary to do it. So he says on Yom Tov we feel it's necessary to do it because there should be sometimes birchas kohanim, and that's the best time to do it. Everybody's happy, like the Ramah said, and everybody comes to shul, so it'll look funny not to do it. And we want to have some time that the kohanim are muchzik to be kohanim, so we do it on Yom Tov. But otherwise, we stay away from doing it. And as you saw, they always had the minhag to do it, so Mela, they keep up that minhag, and that's at least one reason why we don't do duchening today.